The Piri Reis Map. In 1929, a group of historians was cataloging artifacts in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace when they stumbled upon a gazelle skin parchment that would become one of cartography's greatest mysteries. The map, created in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, showed something that should have been impossible: an eerily accurate depiction of coastlines that hadn't been officially discovered yet, and some that were buried under ice. What makes this map extraordinary isn't just its age, but its precision. The eastern coast of South America is rendered with remarkable accuracy, despite the fact that this region had barely been explored by Europeans at the time. But the real mystery lies at the bottom of the map. There, we see what appears to be the northern coastline of Antarctica, and it's drawn ice-free, showing mountains and rivers. And here's the problem. Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, over 300 years after Piri Reis drew his map. Even more perplexing, the continent has been covered by ice for millions of years. Yet the map seems to show the Antarctic coastline as it would appear without its ice sheet, something we only confirmed through modern seismic surveys in the 1950s. Piri Reis himself wrote notes on the map claiming he had compiled it from about 20 source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. But where did those ancient cartographers get their information? How could they have mapped Antarctica before it was discovered, let alone before it was frozen? Some researchers propose that an advanced ancient civilization possessed sophisticated navigation and mapping techniques that were lost to history. Others suggest that the map doesn't actually show Antarctica at all, but rather a distorted view of South America's southern coast, a common error in early cartography when map makers were working with incomplete information. Professional cartographers have noted that the map contains various inaccuracies and projections that wouldn't be unusual for its time. The apparent Antarctica might simply be artistic license or speculation about what lay in unexplored southern waters. Yet supporters of the mystery point to specific details that seem too accurate to be coincidental. The Piri Reis map remains a puzzle that bridges the gap between conventional history and tantalizing possibility, challenging us to reconsider what ancient peoples might have known about our world. The Saqqara Bird. Inside a dusty tomb in Saqqara, Egypt, in 1998, archaeologists unearthed a small object that would become one of ancient Egypt's most debated artifacts. Carved from sycamore wood and dating back to approximately 200 BC, this 6-inch figurine resembles a bird, but not quite like any bird that ever existed. With a wingspan of 7 inches and the vertical tail fin unlike anything found in nature, the Saqqara bird has sparked a controversial question. Did ancient Egyptians understand the principles of aerodynamics and flight? For decades, the artifact sat unremarkably in the Cairo Museum, labeled simply as a bird figurine, probably a toy. Then, in 1969, Dr. Khalil Massia, an Egyptologist and model plane enthusiast, took a closer look and noticed something extraordinary. The object's design bore striking similarities to modern gliders. The wings show a distinct aerodynamic curve, and the vertical tail fin is a feature found in aircraft, not birds, which have horizontal tail feathers. Intrigued researchers began creating replicas and testing them. Some models, when properly weighted and balanced, actually glided through the air with surprising stability. The wings feature a dihedral angle, an upward tilt that provides aerodynamic stability, a principle not formally understood until the development of modern aviation. Could this be evidence that ancient Egyptians had discovered flight, or at least understood its principles thousands of years before the Wright brothers? The implications would be staggering. Ancient Egypt was certainly capable of remarkable engineering feats. The pyramids prove that. But flight? That would suggest a level of technological sophistication that doesn't align with any other evidence we have from that period. Where are the other flying machines? Where are the hieroglyphic accounts of human flight? Skeptics offer a simpler explanation. It's just a bird, possibly representing a falcon or another sacred creature. The vertical tail might simply be artistic interpretation or damage from age. They point out that while some replicas glide, others don't, and the original artifact, they note, doesn't actually fly particularly well without modifications. The debate continues. Is the Saqqara bird evidence of ancient flight experiments, or are we projecting modern knowledge onto an ancient object and seeing what we want to see? The Nazca Lines. Stretching across 200 square miles of the Peruvian coastal plain lies one of archaeology's most spectacular mysteries. The Nazca Lines are enormous geoglyphs, designs etched into the desert floor that depict everything from simple geometric shapes to elaborate animals, including a spider, monkey, hummingbird, and condor. Some of these figures span over 1,000 feet in length. The truly mystifying part? They're virtually invisible from ground level and can only be properly appreciated from the air. Created by the Nazca culture between 500 BC and 500 CE, these designs were made by removing the reddish pebbles covering the desert surface to reveal the lighter-colored ground beneath. The region's extraordinary climate, it's one of the driest places on Earth with minimal wind and rain, has preserved these lines for over 1,500 years. But the question that haunts researchers is simple yet profound. Why would a civilization without flight create massive artworks that can only be fully seen from hundreds of feet in the air? The Swiss author Erich von Däniken popularized the most sensational theory. The lines were landing strips or signals for ancient astronauts. While mainstream archaeology has thoroughly debunked this idea, it captured imaginations worldwide precisely because the mystery is so compelling. If not for aliens, then for whom or what were these enormous designs created? More grounded theories suggest the lines had astronomical or religious significance. Some lines align with solstices and the positions of certain stars, leading researchers to propose they functioned as a massive astronomical calendar. Dr. Anthony Aveni spent decades studying the lines and believes they were ritual pathways. The Nazca people would have walked along them during ceremonies related to water and fertility, which were crucial concerns in this arid environment. Archaeologist Johann Reinhard suggests the lines point towards sacred mountains and water sources, serving as massive offerings to deities who controlled rain. Recent studies using AI to identify previously unknown geoglyphs have discovered hundreds more lines, some appearing to lead to ancient ceremonial centers. But here's what's truly baffling. The Nazca people had no writing system and left no records explaining the purpose of their creation. How did they achieve such precision and scale without being able to see their complete designs? Mathematical models show they could have used simple tools and coordinate systems, but the planning and coordination required still seem extraordinary. The Nazca Lines force us to reconsider the capabilities and motivations of ancient peoples, reminding us that not all monuments are built for human eyes alone. Stone spheres of Costa Rica. Deep in the jungles and river deltas of Costa Rica lie hundreds of perfectly round stone spheres, some weighing up to 10 tons and measuring over 6 feet in diameter. Known locally as Las Bolas, these sour granite and limestone spheres were created by the pre-Columbian Diquis culture between 600 and 1000 CE. The precision of their spherical shape is astonishing. Some deviate from perfect roundness by less than a few millimeters, an achievement that would challenge even modern stonemasons. These spheres were first brought to international attention in the 1930s when the United Fruit Company began clearing jungle for banana plantations. Workers discovered dozens of the mysterious orbs, many arranged in precise geometric patterns, including straight lines and triangular formations. Some arrangements appear to align with astronomical phenomena, though this remains debated. What makes these spheres so perplexing is the precision involved in their creation. The Diquis people didn't have metal tools. They worked with stone instruments and likely used a technique called controlled fracturing, where heating and cooling causes rock to split predictably. But transforming irregular boulders into near-perfect spheres would have required extraordinary skill, patience, and some method of measurement we haven't identified. How did they check their work? How did they achieve such remarkable symmetry? Various theories attempt to explain their purpose. Some researchers suggest they were status symbols, with larger spheres indicating greater power or wealth. Their placement near ceremonial grounds and burial sites supports this idea. Others propose astronomical or navigational functions. Perhaps the arrangements marked important celestial events or territorial boundaries. A more controversial theory suggests they might have had practical purposes, serving as representations of celestial bodies or tools for astronomical calculation. Some patterns, when mapped, appear to mirror certain star configurations, though skeptics argue these alignments might be coincidental. Sadly, many spheres have been damaged or moved from their original locations. In the 1940s and 50s, they became status symbols for wealthy Costa Ricans who moved them to decorate gardens and lawns, destroying crucial archaeological context. Some were even destroyed by treasure hunters who believed gold was hidden inside. Today, only a fraction remain in their original locations, and we've lost invaluable information about their arrangements and purposes. The surviving spheres were designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2014, but the mystery of why a civilization would invest enormous resources into creating perfect stone spheres remains unanswered. They stand as monuments to human capability and ambition, and to all the questions that ancient peoples left behind. The Moai of Easter Island. On one of the most remote inhabited islands on Earth, nearly 900 giant stone heads represent one of archaeology's most haunting mysteries. The Moai of Easter Island, or Rapa Nui as it's known, houses statues that are 13 feet tall and weigh around 14 tons. They watch over the landscape with their empty eyes gazing inland, while their backs are turned to the sea. But the statues themselves aren't the deepest mystery. It's how they got to where they are. Most moai were carved in a single quarry at Rano Raraku volcano, yet they're found scattered across the island, some positioned miles away from their birthplace on elevated stone platforms called ahu. The island had no trees large enough for rolling logs when Europeans arrived, no wheeled vehicles, and no large animals for transport. So how did a relatively small population move multi-ton statues across rough terrain? For decades, the prevailing theory involved wooden sleds and log rollers, which would explain why the island was completely deforested by the time Europeans arrived in 1722. The ecological collapse that followed, soil erosion, crop failure, and societal breakdown, serves as a cautionary tale about resource depletion. But recent experiments have revealed something extraordinary. The moai might have walked. Researchers Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo demonstrated that with ropes attached to the head and base, a small team could rock a moai-shaped replica forward in a walking motion. Ancient oral traditions speak of the statues walking to their platforms through mana, or spiritual power. What if this wasn't metaphorical, but a description of the actual transportation technique? Yet questions remain. Why did the Rapa Nui people dedicate such enormous resources to creating these statues? Most moai represent ancestors, facing inland to watch over and protect their descendants. But the sheer scale of the effort, hundreds of statues, decades of work, massive resource investment, suggests something beyond simple ancestor worship. Was it religious devotion? Political competition between clans? Or something else entirely? Perhaps most mysteriously, why did the moai construction suddenly stop? At the Rano Raraku volcano, nearly 400 statues remain in various stages of completion, as if the workers simply put down their tools one day and never returned. What catastrophe or change in belief was so profound that this civilization abandoned its greatest cultural project? The moai stand as silent witnesses to a society that pushed itself to extremes, creating monuments that still inspire awe centuries later, even as the true depths of their meaning remain locked in stone. The Baghdad Battery. The year is 1936. Deep in the dusty vaults of the Baghdad Museum, German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig reaches for what appears to be just another mundane clay pot. But as he brushes away 2 millennia of dust, his hands begin to tremble. Inside this unassuming vessel lies something impossible. A copper cylinder wrapped around an iron rod, sealed with asphalt. His mind races. He's seen this configuration before, in a textbook on modern batteries. Koenig's heart pounds as he examines the artifact more closely. This isn't just some ancient storage jar. The design is too deliberate, too purposeful. Dating back to 200 BCE during the mysterious Parthian Empire, this humble clay pot might be the most revolutionary archaeological discovery of the century. Could the ancients have wielded the power of electricity? Fast forward to the laboratory. Scientists recreate Koenig's jar, filling it with vinegar, a substance the Parthians would have had. They attach electrodes. The moment of truth arrives. And it works. 1 to 2 volts of genuine electrical current pulse through the wires. The room falls silent. Suddenly, everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations hangs in the balance. Imagine the possibilities. Picture a Parthian goldsmith, carefully electroplating precious metals in his workshop 2,000 years before the Industrial Revolution. Or consider this. Ancient priests armed with these primitive batteries, delivering divine electric shocks to awestruck worshippers, cementing their power through what seemed like supernatural forces. But here's the twist. Skeptics aren't convinced. They argue we're seeing patterns where none exist, a classic case of modern bias. These jars, they insist, are simple scroll containers. The copper, weatherproofing. The iron rod, a scroll holder. Show us one ancient text mentioning batteries, just one. And then tragedy strikes. 2003, the Iraq War erupts, and amid the chaos, the Baghdad batteries vanish. Likely looted, possibly destroyed forever. Now we're left chasing ghosts, studying only photographs and replicas of what might have been humanity's first brush with electricity. The truth remains tantalizingly out of reach, suspended between genius and coincidence, lost somewhere in the sands of ancient Mesopotamia. The Yonaguni Monument. Imagine you're a dive instructor in Japan. It's 1987. You're out near Yonaguni Island, literally the edge of Japan, and you're just looking for some cool hammerhead sharks to show tourists. A normal day at the office. But then you dive down about 80 feet, and boom, there's this absolutely massive stone structure just sitting there on the ocean floor like it's been waiting for you. And that's exactly what happened with a local diver named Kihachiro Aratake. He saw huge terrace platforms and geometric shapes that looked like staircases carved into solid rock. He must have thought he was losing his mind. Like, do you surface immediately and tell everyone? Do you think you're hallucinating from nitrogen narcosis? Because this thing is massive. We're talking nearly the length of a football field. The formation stretches over 160 feet long and towers nearly 80 feet high. So word gets out, and this marine geologist named Masaaki Kimura shows up to investigate. He spends years diving this site, and he comes back with the wildest claim. This monument is man-made and could be over 10,000 years old. 10,000 years. That's older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids. We're talking about a time when mainstream archaeology says humans were barely figuring out agriculture. And the details? They're insane. There are these perfectly flat terraces stacked like a wedding cake. There's a formation they call the turtle because it looks like a giant turtle. There are these parallel grooves that seem way too precise to be random. Some sections look like amphitheater seating, like you could picture ancient people gathering there for ceremonies or whatever. But here's where your skeptical friend jumps in, because not everyone's buying it. This geologist, Robert Schock, dives down there and he's like, nope, this is just rocks being rocks. He says sandstone naturally fractures in these geometric patterns, and ocean currents can wear them down into shapes that look artificial. And honestly, he's got a point, because here's the kicker. Nobody's found a single tool, not one piece of pottery, no human remains, nothing that screams people made this. The believers fire back though. They point to these weird symmetrical holes that look drilled. There are stone features that seem deliberately placed. Some researchers claim they found crude carvings that might be animals or symbols. What really gets me is the what if of it all. If this thing is man-made, it means there was a sophisticated civilization building monumental architecture when the rest of humanity was supposedly figuring out how to farm. We'd have to completely rethink human history. But if it's natural, then Mother Nature is out there trolling archaeologists, creating the most convincing fake ruins ever. The craziest part? We may never know for sure. It's just sitting there, 25 meters underwater, keeping its secrets. Is it the remnants of a lost Pacific civilization, Japan's Atlantis, or is it just really convincing rock formations? Either way, every time I think about some diver accidentally stumbling onto this thing while looking for sharks, I get chills. Like, what else is down there that we haven't found yet? From submerged structures that might predate known civilization to stone spheres that challenge our understanding of ancient precision, these discoveries share something profound in common. They remind us how much we still don't know about our own history. Each artifact, each monument, each mysterious map forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and consider possibilities that don't fit neatly into established historical narratives. What's perhaps most humbling is realizing that these mysteries exist not because ancient peoples lacked capability, but because we lack complete understanding. The Baghdad Battery, whether truly electrical or not, reminds us that ancient civilizations were constantly experimenting and innovating. The Nazca Lines demonstrate that human ambition and vision have always exceeded what seems practical or necessary. The Piri Reis Map suggests that knowledge once known could be lost to time, preserved only in fragments. The truth is, we may never have definitive answers to these mysteries, but in questioning, in investigating, in refusing to accept easy explanations, we honor the ingenuity and mystery of those who came before us. These discoveries don't just ask us to solve puzzles from the past, they challenge us to reconsider everything we think we know about human capability, ancient wisdom, and the long, complex story of our species. Who knows what other mysteries still lie buried, waiting to reshape our understanding of history once again?